Scam artists are now using AI to clone voices to trick unsuspecting victims.
3 seconds. That's all they needed. Not a long interview, not a recorded speech, not hours of footage. 3 seconds of someone's voice, pulled from a YouTube clip, a podcast, a company earnings call, and modern artificial intelligence can rebuild that voice from scratch. The pitch, the tone, the rhythm, the way certain words land, the subtle accent, the breathing patterns, all of it, reconstructed in minutes. And once that voice exists in a system, it can say anything. It can call your finance director at 9 a.m. on a Monday. It can sound calm, authoritative, urgent. It can ask for a wire transfer, and in most cases, the money moves. Welcome to the Exposure Bureau. What you're about to hear is not a hypothetical. It is not a warning about some distant future threat. It is happening right now at scale to companies across the United States, Europe, and Asia. Today, we're breaking down the rise of AI voice cloning fraud, how it works, who is behind it, and why even the most cautious organizations are losing millions to a technology that costs criminals almost nothing to deploy. Every major corporation has a digital footprint. Earnings calls posted to investor relations pages, CEO interviews on financial news networks, keynote speeches at industry conferences, podcast appearances, LinkedIn videos. All of it is public. All of it is recorded. All of it is indexed and searchable. And all of it, every second of audio, is raw material. Modern voice cloning tools, many of which are available commercially for legitimate purposes like content creation and accessibility, can process that audio and generate a synthetic voice model. The accuracy of that model? According to research from McAfee, a voice clone built from publicly available audio achieves an 85% accuracy match to the original. By late 2025, voice synthesis had crossed what researchers called the indistinguishable threshold, meaning human listeners can no longer reliably tell the difference between a cloned voice and the real one. Let that settle for a moment. You cannot trust your own ears anymore. Here is how a typical attack unfolds. The criminals identify a target company. They research its structure, who reports to whom, which executives handle financial decisions, which employees have the authority to approve wire transfers. This information is often available on LinkedIn, company websites, press releases. They then clone the voice of a senior executive, typically a CEO or CFO, using publicly available recordings. The call is placed to a finance employee or an executive assistant. The cloned voice delivers an urgent message, a confidential acquisition, a regulatory payment, a time-sensitive transfer that cannot go through normal channels because of legal sensitivity. Urgency, authority, secrecy. These three elements together create a psychological environment where questioning the request feels wrong. Feels like you're doubting your own boss, potentially jeopardizing something important. And so, the transfer is made. In one documented case in Singapore in March 2025, a finance director received a call from what sounded exactly like her company's CFO. The request was for a $499,000 transfer. Urgent, confidential. She authorized it. The CFO had never made that call. This is not a small problem. Deepfake-enabled voice attacks surged over 1,600% in the first quarter of 2025 compared to the previous quarter in the United States alone. At major retailers and financial institutions, AI-powered vishing, voice phishing, now exceeds 1,000 automated scam calls per day. 1,000 per day. At a single organization. These are not individual criminals making individual calls. This is infrastructure. This is an automated criminal ecosystem that identifies targets, places calls, processes responses, and moves money, with minimal human involvement on the attacker's side. The average loss per incident has climbed dramatically. What used to be tens of thousands of dollars is now regularly in the hundreds of thousands, and in high-profile corporate cases, into the tens of millions. Deloitte projects AI-enabled fraud in the United States will reach $40 billion annually by 2027. That number is not a prediction about some far-off scenario. It is a projection based on the current growth rate. The trajectory is already set. But understanding the scale of this problem is only half the story. Because the real question isn't how many companies have been hit. It's why this scam works on smart, experienced professionals. And the answer has nothing to do with technology. What makes voice cloning attacks uniquely dangerous isn't just the technology, it's what technology exploits. For centuries, the human voice has been one of our most trusted signals of identity. We recognize our parents' voices before we can see their faces. We trust a familiar voice in the dark. We believe what we hear from someone we know. That instinct, that deeply wired cognitive shortcut, is exactly what these attacks weaponize. When a finance director hears their CFO's voice, the specific cadence, the familiar phrasing, the way he says certain words, every internal alarm that might otherwise fire gets suppressed. Because the voice says, "This is safe. This is someone you know. This is legitimate." Security experts describe it this way. Traditional phone scams cannot exploit familiarity. A random caller claiming to be a CEO sounds exactly like what they are, a stranger. But a cloned voice doesn't sound like a stranger. It sounds like Tuesday morning. It sounds like a normal week at the office. It sounds like someone you've worked with for years. That's the weapon, not the technology, the trust. Beyond Singapore, documented cases are emerging across multiple continents.
All right, well, it's been revealed cybercriminals now need as little as 3 seconds to steal your voice and clone it, and then use it as part of a scam.
In January 2026, a businessman in Switzerland was convinced to transfer several million Swiss francs after receiving a series of phone calls from what sounded exactly like a trusted business partner. The calls were consistent. The voice was familiar. The story was believable. The business partner had never made those calls. In the United States, the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center recorded over $11 billion in total crypto and digital fraud losses in 2025, a 22% increase from the previous year, with voice and identity fraud among the fastest-growing categories. And these are only the reported cases. Security researchers estimate that a significant portion of voice cloning fraud goes unreported, either because companies discover it too late to trace, or because the reputational damage of admitting the breach is considered worse than absorbing the financial loss. The corporate response to voice cloning fraud has forced a fundamental rethink of how organizations verify instructions. The old model, call your boss to confirm a suspicious email, get on a video call if you're still unsure, no longer works. Both phone and video can now be fabricated. Security teams are implementing what's called out-of-band verification, a pre-agreed secondary channel completely separate from email and phone, used specifically to confirm high-value financial instructions. Some companies have introduced voice code words, specific phrases agreed upon in advance that no AI system would know to insert into a cloned call. Others have deployed AI detection systems, tools designed to analyze incoming audio in real time and flag synthetic voice patterns. But adoption is slow. According to current data, only 32% of corporate executives believe their organizations are prepared for a deepfake incident, which means the majority of companies operating today have no plan, no protocol, no defense. Here is what this comes down to. Criminals have found a way to turn your company's public presence. Every interview, every earnings call, every recorded statement your leadership has ever made, into a weapon. They don't need to break into your systems. They don't need insider information. They need 3 seconds of audio and an internet connection. The defense isn't paranoia. It isn't refusing to take phone calls or stopping video meetings. The defense is process. Rigid, non-negotiable, multi-channel verification for any financial instruction, regardless of how familiar the voice sounds, regardless of how urgent the request feels. Because urgency is the tool, and familiarity is the disguise. This is the Exposure Bureau. Stay informed, stay skeptical, and the next time your phone rings and a familiar voice asks you to move money fast, verify first, every single time.